Hello, everyone. This is Teresa Perkins, editor of Exposure, Spotlight Magazine, where your voice matters. And I am very delighted today because I have an incredibly special guest. And she is married to internal medicine physician, Dr. Jonathan Roberts. She served in the U.S. Army for over 13 years. She earned her Bachelor's of Science degree in nursing, later earned her law degree. In 2006, she opened a full-service law practice, and since that time, she has handled hundreds of criminals, civil, probate, and family cases. She is currently running for Judge of Division M of the 19th Judicial District Court. Allow me to introduce to you Judge Tiffany Foxworth. How are you?
I love that introduction. Thank you.
Thank you.
You speak it into existence and I shall receive it. Well, so thank you.
Amen. That's right. Well, look, you deserve it. Trust me, you do. So how's everything going?
Everything has been going great. I'm very excited. We are just a little over 2 weeks prior to the general election. And myself, as long as my campaign team, we're very excited, to get out and continue our service to the people. I've had an amazing time being out in the community and touching so many people on a personal basis. So that's the part that I love the most, being actually able to touch and reach the people. We have such a wonderful community here in Baton Rouge.
Yes, most definitely. Look, Judge Foxworth, you have had quite a diverse and wide-ranging career. I mean, military service, nursing, and law. Look, can you tell us about your journey through these careers?
Well, first and foremost, public service is something that's near and dear to my heart. I love working with people on a one-on-one basis, especially in service-oriented and service-connected fields. I began my journey in life through my adulthood as a private in the Army. I enlisted in the Army just after high school.
Wow.
And my desire at that time was to follow in my father's footsteps. He fought in the Vietnam War and he died when I was young. And so I wanted to honor him in that regard. I served a tour of duty in the military, and I actually started college as an older student because I had completed a tour before I actually enrolled in school. And that's what brought me to Baton Rouge. And it was my desire to attend the HBCU, and Southern University was the perfect fit for me. So I moved here and I majored in nursing. I love caring for people. I love the medical field. Even in the Army, I worked in the medical field. I was stationed at Walter Reed Army Medical Center and Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. And I completed my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. I worked extensively in that field. I've worked in clinical nursing once as a staff, on staff. I worked as a travel nurse. I did agency nursing. I commissioned into the Army and was also a nurse in the Army.
Wow.
I worked on average about 60 to 72 hours a week. Even when I was in law school as a full-time student, I still worked as a nurse so that I could support myself. I had bills and everything to pay. Law school went by really fast. And even after I passed the bar, I was working full-time as an attorney during the week. And on the weekends, I worked as a nurse.
That is awesome. That is awesome, truly.
That's been my journey. I love it. I wouldn't have traded for anything. I think law has always been my passion. Even when I was in undergraduate school, I'm studying to become a nurse. I knew even then that I wanted to be an attorney. And I have no regrets. I've enjoyed this journey. As far as working within the court system and being able to help people real people. I've never worked with organizations, only people in the community as a private practitioner. And that's the thing that I've loved the most, being able to have a positive impact on people's lives and on the lives of families that are right here in my community.
Wow, that is so awesome. Really, look, I commend you and what you're doing. You're definitely a woman that is wearing many hats, very talented, gifted, so that is so awesome. But I know you had mentioned that you always wanted to be an attorney, but what ultimately led you to being to get into law?
Well, I can't say that I've actually had any mentors along the way. It's unfortunate during the time that I came up, we didn't have a lot of positive Black role models in where I was from or where I grew up. I didn't even have anyone who encouraged me to attend college, for that matter. When I was a student in high school, my guidance counselor even questioned why I was taking college preparatory classes and added that it was highly unlikely that I would even attend college. So the only thing that I can say is that while I was on active duty in the Army, God put people in my path that sort of guided me along the way. And I developed long-lasting friendships from people from all over the world who saw things in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself, and question why I set my limits on strictly what I was doing, and suggested, why don't you consider this? Have you thought about going to college? Have you thought about doing more? And at the time I had not. And so I'm very thankful for that. Again, I was an older student, but better later than never. Mm-hmm. And so along with that, when I thought about the things that I wanted to do long term in life and where I envisioned the direction of my life going, it was with law or in law. The criminal justice system is something that I've always been intrigued by. I think that when I think of the criminal justice system, I look at it almost like medicine. When you go into court and represent a criminal defendant or a person who has been charged with a crime, I look at it along the lines of it being a life or death situation. And that was the mindset that I had when I worked in the hospital also. If you deliver top quality care, there's a lower probability that it will result in the demise of a human being. If you deliver competent legal representation in court, it's a lower probability that a person can get an excessive sentence or get a life sentence, things of that nature. Ultimately, it impacts a person's life. And that's the part that I'm most passionate about.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Look, allow me to ask you, mm-hmm. Which arena would you say is more high, high stakes, I guess you could say, the military, nursing, the law, and which one would you find that is more rewarding,
I think that they're all separate and distinct with themselves. As far as the military is concerned, there are so many sacrifices that our service members have to make, as far as your family obligations. With me being in the Army, one of the things that they would say is if the Army wanted you to have a family, it would have been a part of your basic issue. And we were, you're not issued family. You're issued a weapon, you're issued uniforms, but you're not issued a family. And so, in essence, they become your family. The Army's mission was first. And so there are a lot of sacrifices that, even I had to make along the way during that 13-year tenure in the military. It was very rewarding. I learned a lot, a lot of values that were instilled in me that, I can definitely, I'm definitely happy for that today. Mm-hmm. upholding the Constitution. In essence, that's what our service people do. You know, we protect the country against foreign and domestic. We uphold the Constitution. You know, those are things that even are, those are principles that are applied through the law. Working in a hospital, something a little different because you're dealing with, you know, real people and life and death matters. You know, the reality of the matter is that when people go into the hospital, they don't go into the hospital because, you know, they're going in for checkups. 9 times out of 10, they're sick. And it can result in death in some occasions. And so that's a lot of things that you have to deal with. People have things that are going on in their personal lives, and you have to leave that at the doorstep and make your focus about your business. Your business is taking care of your patients, just the same as in the courtroom. Your business is about your clients. And I think that I have a unique ability to be able to, what I call, compartmentalize things that may even be going on in my personal life and focus in on the mission. I'm very much mission focused, purpose driven.
I would say so.
Tunnel vision. I do. I have tunnel vision, and that's me. I have a tunnel vision. If I set a goal, then I'm going to see it through. I try my best to never deviate or go off course. Once I set it, I will see it through, win, lose, or draw. You know, I feel that there's something to be learned in the process. I will see it through.
So which area of the law do you find that is most challenging? Would you say family, civil, criminal? Out of those?
I would say maybe criminal. And criminal because you're dealing with people's lives. There is no greater reward in life than having one's freedom, your civil liberties. And to have that taken away from you, that's a major thing. Yeah. Granted, a person can still be alive and coexist. However, if their freedoms are restricted, if their civil liberties are taken away, then in essence, it's almost like they've lost a part of their life. Look at how many people have been wrongfully convicted of crimes. They can never get that time back. There are people who sit in jail for excessive or prolonged periods of time awaiting trial because they cannot afford bail, only to go to trial and then found not guilty. They don't get that time back. That's time lost. And that's a part of a person's life where they were not able to have certain interactions with their family members. They miss out on family moments or developmental stages for their children. Lost memories, things you'll never get back in life. So for me, I would think criminal.
Okay. So would you say this is pretty much what led you to seek the judge's seat? For those personal reasons, as well as people needing that assistance with?
For the past 15 years, my practice has been about 80% criminal defense. And with that, I'm able to go into the court systems, and I've practiced law all throughout South Louisiana. But based off of my personal observations, I have noticed that there are a lot of disparities within the criminal justice system. And there is a lot of underrepresentation as far as people who may be over-criminalized. And as a result of that, over-penalized by our court systems. And I think that it's imperative that we have judges who have practiced criminal law, judges who have practiced criminal law at this stage also, where they've dealt with people who were charged with felonies. They've dealt with people who were facing possible life sentences or even possible death sentences. Judges who have worked with cases whereby they've had to make evidentiary decisions or even arguments on behalf of a client, because we all know without evidence, there is no case. So these things matter. Those are the roles of a judge. Judges rule on issues pertaining to evidence, and then also they're the sentencing authority. So with that having been said, the minimum qualifications for a judge to serve at this level is having practiced law for 8 years. Just because a person has been admitted to practice law for 8 years does not make them qualified or experienced to handle cases of this magnitude. Judges have the ability to have your children taken away from you, compel you to give up your DNA, authorize a search warrant for law enforcement to kick your door in and come in and search your home. They can sentence you to life in prison. They can even sentence you to death. That is a lot of power that is vested in a person. And if we have people who are being charged with crimes and on the trial court level don't have money for competent representation or even paid legal representation, if a judge makes an erroneous ruling that warrants it to go up to a higher court, then it's apparent that they would not even have the money to take it to a higher court if they could not afford representation in a lower court. I can tell you that I have practiced extensively on the trial court level in the district court. That is something that going into this race, I was the only candidate who had that experience, the only one. No one else has represented and tried homicide cases, rape cases, robbery cases. These are all major felonies. I have death penalty training. These are things that judges have to be knowledgeable about. When you make issues or errors on the trial court level, it not only affects the life of the individual, but everyone else within that family unit. What affects one affects a family. If the family is affected, the community is affected. When you have people who get who are coerced even into taking convictions on certain crimes, that affects their ability to obtain gainful employment. If you cannot earn a certain amount of money, statistics have shown that it directs people to lifestyles of crime. That's the one thing that distinguishes us from animals, our survival skills. People will survive. They will do what they have to do to make it. And it widens the economic gaps between us within certain races. Yeah. It does.
And I was going to ask you, how can I say this? Well, I guess just go ahead and be direct. But does racism at all, does it play a role or happen in the judicial system?
Well, when we look at things statistically, we know that there are far more Black people who are convicted of crimes than any other race, although we as Black people are not in the majority. That's a fact. So one may question, how is this possible? You know, there are multiple different factors that I look at and take into consideration. Let's just take at voting. If we look at the issue of voting, for instance, when monies are allocated to certain communities, they look at things like that. You know, where's the voting strength? You know, where do we allocate these dollars? If this group of people or community people are not voting, then we're not going to spend money, or we're not going to put dollars into these communities. And why is that? Because they don't make a difference or an outcome in our position. So now you have lack of resources. You have underfunding in education. You know, all of these things matter. Even nutrition matters. So when you have a certain community of people that lack these resources, and if they're over policed, and as a result of that, they end up in the criminal justice system that now has privatized prisons where they can make money based off of each inmate, it's going to have a outcome that affects maybe one group of the population more so than the other. And to answer your question, yes, I've seen it. It does exist. You know, they even have certain systems right here in Baton Rouge that I can tell you that I don't particularly like. Whenever you have people who are deemed to be repeat offenders, they categorize them into a system that's called ropes. And with ropes system, that's where they try to get convictions, in essence, by any means. Of all the cases that go to court, I would say probably 70% of them settle out of court in for some form of a plea agreement. But with these persons, it's their files are coded to obtain a conviction. So they're very aggressive with these type of these files, or these people who are deemed to be a part of this ropes category. And the thing that I found most interesting is that historically, when you look at the historical nature of ropes and Black people, you know, what were ropes used for? you know, right. And in essence, this same system that's employed is doing the same thing. Ropes.
Yeah.
And that's what it's called. It's called ropes. Right here in Baton Rouge, ropes.
Wow. I tell you. Well, look, I'm glad you're running so you can make that change, you know. Now, I want to discuss something too as well. Nationwide, there has been a large call for criminal justice reform, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you think has led to this frustration, and pretty much on what we're really discussing as of right now, and the mistrust from the public?
Well, first of all, we're in need of a serious criminal reform. You know, Louisiana was one of the last states to even change the laws as it pertained to unanimous jury verdicts. And so when you look at the burden of proof that's required to obtain a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt, you know, if there are people who vote against a conviction, is that really beyond a reasonable doubt? So we were one of the last states. That just changed like just over a year ago. So when we take factors like that into consideration, and then also the large disparities in numbers as it pertains to convictions. And then there are people who get very harsh penalties for nonviolent crimes. Now, if a person commits a crime, you know, granted, there are some bad people out there, right. But if a person commits a crime that's a nonviolent act, you have to look at the amount of time that a person gets. Is the time or the sentence proportionate to the crime? And I think that's a lot of the problem that exists. There's a lot of times it's disproportionate. I've seen where there have been people who have gotten life sentences for nonviolent crimes based off of the fact of them having prior felony convictions. In Louisiana, we have a habitual offender statute that will allow the district attorney or the DA's office to pursue charges or additional time to be attached to a sentence as a result of that. And the numbers are just so high. It's just, sometimes it's really disheartening to see how people are charged with multiple crimes and they stay in jail so long that oftentimes once they get to court, they just want to plead to any charge just so that they can get out of jail and then get on probation. And then they end up with felony convictions. And the court system has pretrial programs in place whereby they can try to rehabilitate people on the front end. But it costs money to do that. Mm-hmm. And if people don't have money, even if they qualify, they can't get into those programs. And so that creates another disparity. You know, if you have greater finances, then you have access to these things where you would not get a conviction on your record. So again, that adds to the revolving cycle of people who are economically challenged ending up with the short end of the stick. So there's a lot of work to be done in the criminal justice system as far as criminal reform is concerned. It's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yes. And I know, and one person cannot do it alone. It has to be some type of unity somewhere.
Well, it has to start somewhere, and I think with your trial court judges, that's a good start. With the judges, I think that it's imperative that judges are proactive too. You know, when people come into court, sometimes they're just looking for someone to take an interest in them or at least give them a second chance. I don't think that anyone is the sum total of a mistake that has been made. And if, of course, I don't believe in grouping people in boxes. You have to look at each situation as a unique circumstance. You know, I believe in looking at the totality of the circumstances per individual and not looking at grouping everyone that walks in as someone who cannot be rehabilitated. That's the objective. The objective of the criminal justice system should be rehabilitation, not just incarceration. Not everyone can be rehabilitated, but that should at least be the objective. For the life of me, it's mind-blowing that in the United States, we have some of the greatest percentages of violent crimes when you look by comparison to other countries. You know, we're supposed to be like the superpower of the world. You know, so to have some of the brightest people in the world in the United States, but yet we can't figure out criminal justice reform and how to curtail some of these senseless violent acts that even go on right here in Baton Rouge. You know, just a couple years ago, we were compared to Chicago. Actually, we surpassed Chicago per capita for homicides. And this is right here at our home. I mean, these are things that need to be addressed. On the weekend of the 4th of July, we had multiple shootings here in Baton Rouge. I think it was maybe about 7, if I'm not mistaken, in Baton Rouge during the 4th of July weekend. Mm-hmm. Plank Road, not too long ago, there were people shooting AR-15s, and it sounded like a war zone. And that's all right here at home. Why is it that we keep having these repeat crimes and of such violent magnitude? Those are things that are going to have to be addressed, you know, and they seem to be confined to certain areas for the most part, but now they're starting to spread out around the city.
I mean, what changes do you think that can actually be done to reduce the crime rate here in Baton Rouge as well as, you know, Louisiana, period?
I think that if people, first of all, education is one issue. The average person who is tied up into the criminal justice system only has about a 9th grade education. And oftentimes that's through to social promotion. So if you look at where they stand academically, It's probably like a sixth grade level as far as education is concerned. So I think that we need to start there. You know, when people know better, they tend to do better.
That's right.
And so when you look at things that occur within a home, everything starts at home as far as your teaching and your nurturing. Working over in the juvenile court system, I saw where there were a lot of children who were being charged with crimes, a lot of juveniles charged with crimes, and their parents were also a part of the juvenile court system during their youth. So it's almost like a generational thing. So in order to curtail things, we're first going to have to start at home with parenting. Mm-hmm. Secondly, education. We need adequate resources in communities, maybe through the social work and support systems for parents. We have a lot of broken homes where you only have one parent in the home. And, you know, I've actually was in court once and I saw where there was a mom whose child, her son had been arrested for a crime, but had been released out on his own recognizance, in essence. And so the mom had to take him home. Well, she refused to take her child home. She said that he would not listen to her. He constantly got in trouble. She was a working single parent. She had other children to take care of. She was constantly missing work because he would not go to school. He would not listen. And he kept getting arrested. Every time he goes to court, she has to take off work and she could not afford to continue to miss work and take care of him. The judge actually threatened to put her in jail. She said, well, fine, you'll have to put me in jail and then just take all of my children because I can't let everyone suffer for one. The judge did not arrest her and put her in jail. And the child, her son, was actually deemed to be a child in the need of care at that point because she refused to take her child home. And so when you have, especially females having to rear males, that can be challenging also. So I think if we get more organizations involved where we have like strong Black role models within, you know, certain disadvantaged communities, I think with their presence, that can help a lot too. A lot of these young boys don't have anyone to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a good start, you know. I think if people take interest in them, then that could definitely help, you know, curtail a lot of that criminal activity.
Wow.
Yes. And they're fearless at this age. They're young and they're fearless. They're not afraid to die. They're fearless. The youth are fearless.
Yes. Look, this is some wonderful information that you're giving. Before we wrap it up, I would like to ask you to share some information because I'm one of those who love to encourage and inspire others. I'm sure there are some listeners that's tuning in to us that may be going to law school or what have you, and maybe looking at starting a law firm. But I would like to ask this question. What advice can you give to those who may be looking at starting their own firm, or would you suggest that maybe they should start in a existing firm before? I mean, what is your advice on that?
I would not recommend a new graduate or a new attorney to start a firm on their own. I would definitely recommend working with a seasoned attorney for at least a year and just consider it like a preceptorship, if you will. Law school gives you the knowledge that you need to practice law, but not the practical experience. The courtroom setting is totally different than the theories that you receive in a classroom. There are a lot of cases there are a lot of instances where cases can be lost just based off of failure to practice accordingly. And as a new attorney, seasoned attorneys can recognize that and actually take advantage of new attorneys. And that would set the attorney up for malpractice. And so you never want to get into a situation where your license would be put in jeopardy, or you can get bar complaints, because it happens, especially when you work in private practice. Anytime you're dealing with, citizens, if they become disgruntled, if they're unhappy, they file complaints. They pay you money and they feel like some may think that they're the only client you have, and if you don't return a phone call within hours or within a day, so the complaints will come. So I would let them know that people do file complaints regularly. And 2, make sure that you adequately document. 3, train under someone. Make sure that your skills are there before you venture off on your own. And then 4, you have to build up clientele. People have to know that you're there. They have to know what services you provide. And as long as you show up to court on time, you're competent, you keep in contact with your clients, and you're prepared when you go to court, you shouldn't have any problems once you actually start practicing.
Great information. I really enjoyed the interview tremendously. However, I would like for you to share with everyone, again, that is listening, to where they go to the polls and vote Judge Tiffany Foxworth.
Okay. Well,
what information can you give to everyone?
Well, early voting is actually ongoing right now. This is a special election to fill a vacancy. We're in the runoff portion of it now. The runoff election is on August the 15th. Early voting is ongoing daily now throughout August the 8th, with the exception of Sunday. There are about 5 different locations throughout East Baton Rouge Parish. They open at 8:30 and they close at 6 o'clock. So we have a location on Essen Lane at State Archives, the City Hall, which is downtown on St. Louis Street, the DMV in Baker, the fire station on Coursey Boulevard, and that's near Chimes Restaurant, and the Central Branch Library. So those are the 5 locations within the parish. Every day except Sunday from 8:30 to 6 o'clock p.m. Election day, which will be on August the 15th, the polls open at 7 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. The district that I am running in is the northern part of the parish. So it includes locations such as Baker, Central, Zachary, Pride, Slaughter, Cheneyville, Alson, then south to Sharon Hills, Marydale, Park Forest, Monticello, Villa Del Rey, Sherwood Forest, the Flannery area, Broadmoor. So that's my district. In essence, it's almost half of East Baton Rouge Parish. There are about 97,000 residents. But if anyone should have any questions, feel free to contact me, 225-298-0748. And again, I am Tiffany Foxworth. My ballot number is 218.
All right. I was going to ask too, what was that ballot number? Again, you guys, you heard it. The ballot number is 218. So once again, Judge Foxworth, allow me to thank you very much for being a part of the Exposure Spotlight Magazine talk show. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. And
thank you. I'm going into this calm. I feel that, I've been obedient, and this is my assignment, and I'm just waiting for, things to take its course. I have a very calming feeling about it, which may be crazy, but I am. I think that I've done my work. I've, been out in the community. I've represented people to the best of my ability, and I've touched the lives of a lot of people and their families. And so I know that I would stand, firm in pursuit of justice within our courtroom, within the judiciary. And I would be a relatable judge. I have a good temperament. I'm respectful and mindful of people. That's common courtesies, or things that were employed in us first of all, growing up in the South. Secondly, coming up young in the military. You address people with, respectfully. And those are things that matter. I understand that there are people from different backgrounds and different walks of life. There's no cookie cutter individual or situation. And we need to look at people as individuals, and we need to work together to make our community a better place, because it does take a village. I mean, we have to take interest in people. If we're to be a public servant or hold ourselves out to be, the public needs to be our priority. And the public is our community, because we're all a part of the same village.
Yes. Awesome. Judge Foxworth, look, the ballot number, everyone, once again, is 218. All right. I want to say thanks again. I greatly appreciate you accepting this invitation to be a part of this interview. And I wish you very much success. May God bless you.
God bless you too. And thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The 19th Judicial District Court is a trial court for the state of Louisiana. And although most will never have a case there, its decisions impact all of us and how we live our daily lives. That's why it's so important to elect the right person to serve on this court. My name is Tiffany Foxworth, number 218 on your ballot, and I am running for Judge of the 19th Judicial District Court, Division M. I've spent my entire legal career as a private attorney, representing hundreds of people right here in our community. My experience has prepared me to serve as your next judge. Judges are elected officials. They should stand on their works, acts of service to mankind, and experience within the relevant setting. I believe in the rule of law and will be objective and fair. My husband, Dr. Jonathan Waddles, and I are raising a daughter. And although I love the law, they are the love of my life. I have been a public servant for over 2 decades, served our country through 3 war periods in the U.S. Army, and cared for the sick and elderly as a registered nurse. So on Election Day, please vote Tiffany Foxworth, number 218,